Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty end flat after a volatile session. Mid-caps underperform. Volatility index hits its highest level in 52 weeks.
There may be an unexplored or unattended to opportunity in that area.
Legendary investor Warren Buffett says there may be unexplored opportunities in India and future management of Berkshire could pursue them. Buffett also finds cash attractive and is currently sitting on a massive pile of $189 billion as he finds few attractive opportunities today. Chinese President Xi Jinping kicks off three-country Europe trip from France. His first visit to the continent in 5 years comes at a time when Western Europe has questioned China's stance over the Russian-Ukraine war. The EU is also set to push for fair trade ties with China. President Xi will also be visiting Hungary leader Orbán, who is considered Putin's closest ally in Europe. Israel orders 100,000 people to evacuate the city of Rafah in Gaza as an offensive looms. Israel claims the operation will have limited scope. The order follows overnight raids which reportedly killed 22 persons, including 8 children. Hamas terms the evacuation order a dangerous escalation. Shares of REC PFC tumble after RBI proposes stricter rules for project financing. Draft rules seek higher provisioning in the construction phase, even if the asset is classified as standard. RBI invites comments by the 15th of June. CNBC-TV18 learns lenders may push back on the proposal. Kotak Mahindra Bank stock perks up a strong Q4 performance. MD and CEO Ashok Vaswani says RBI curbs on digital lending could impact its profit by 300 to 500 crores this fiscal, but adds that the impact was minimal. The CEO also brushes aside any concerns over exit of joint MD KVS Manian, said Manian does not have anything in his hands right now, to the best of his knowledge. Jet Airways founder Naresh Goyal gets interim bail for 2 months from the Bombay High Court on medical grounds. He was arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case. "93 seats across 11 states and union territories will go to polls in Phase 3 of the Lok Sabha elections tomorrow. This includes 25 out of 26 seats in Gujarat. The BJP has already won the Surat seat unopposed. Baramati in Maharashtra to witness a high-stakes contest between members of the Pawar family. The first 2 phases of the election saw a healthy voter turnout of 66%. After years of delay, a Boeing spacecraft will ferry NASA astronauts to the International Space Station tomorrow. Indian origin astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore are scheduled to return to Earth in about a week's time. Well, straight to the day's market action. The market ended the day largely lower after a volatile session of trade. Mid-caps outperformed, while the volatility index hit its highest level in 52 weeks. Surbhi Upadhyay joining us now with a quick wrap of the day's trading action. Surbhi, a flat close today after a volatile session. Tell us more.
Well, it turned out to be another disappointing day for the bulls, and I'll tell you why. 3 main reasons. One, the fact that this market is unable to sustain at higher levels, and this is happening consistently. 2, because we underperformed a lot of the global markets and ignored very positive global cues that were coming in. And 3, because the broader market was again reeling under pressure. Let me quickly go over these one by one. Now, this pattern about letting go of the morning highs, this is becoming a little disturbing. 4th day in a row, the Nifty unable to sustain anywhere close to the gap up. If you talk about the congestion zone, then very clearly 22,780 to about 22,800, which is where the all-time highs are. That's proving to be a congestion zone, and maybe, some charters say could be perhaps signaling a double top as well. Then we talk about the broader market trend. Today, throughout the day, the advanced decline ratio was negative, almost 1,600 stocks declining, so that was not inspiring confidence. The mid-cap index consistently underperforming the frontliners with a cut of about 0.5%. PSU stocks saw a lot of selling. Actually, it was PSU and commodity stocks, metals, oil and gas. That's where the bulk of the weakness was. And on PSUs, it was across the board. BPCL, Coal India, BHEL. But the real cuts came in on the financial space, PSU financial, and that's thanks to the draft norms that the RBI put out on project financing, where perhaps provisions will start going higher. So if you look at the power financiers, PFC, REC, they were down between 7, 8, 9% throughout the session, count in an IRDA as well. And look at PSU banks like PNB, SBI, most of them were down and out. We had some very sharp result reactions today as well on the way up and on the way down. So tight and disappointing, with a lot of concern now around margins considering higher competition in the market. Britannia was a surprising outlier on very strong commentary. That stock perked up 7, 8%. And then there was Kotak Mahindra Bank. Regulatory woes aside, and of course succession and the recent exits aside, the numbers themselves were scintillating and the market liked that. Finally, last but not the least, the real estate sector actually bucked the otherwise weak trend in the market, and a lot of stocks, Godrej Properties, good management commentary on Q4 and beyond there. We had Prestige Estates and Sobha also moving higher, but a bit of a wobbly day for sure.
Right, Surbhi, thanks a lot for that. Now, China's services activity growth eased in April on the back of rising input costs, but remained in expansionary territory, and that's as per a private sector survey. The S&P Purchasing Managers Index came in at 52.5 in the month of April, dipping marginally from the index in the month of March. The survey, however, indicated that growth in new orders and rise in business sentiment could propel the country's economic recovery. Well, speaking of China, the Chinese President Xi Jinping kicked off his first visit to Europe in 5 years from France. Accompanied by his wife, President Xi reached Paris yesterday to mark the 60th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the two nations. President Xi is scheduled to meet his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron, and European Commission President Ursula von today, before heading to Serbia and Hungary. Xi is also scheduled to meet the Hungary Prime Minister, considered Putin's closest ally in Europe. Reports have suggested that the Macron and EU president are likely to urge President Jinping to reduce trade imbalances and use China's influence to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. Legendary investor Warren Buffett attended the annual general meeting of his company Berkshire Hathaway this weekend. This is the first AGM after the death of his longtime business partner, Charlie Munger. Berkshire is sitting on a massive cash pile of $189 billion, and Buffett said that he finds cash attractive and said that he's seeing few attractive opportunities. Speaking about India, Buffett said that there could be unexplored opportunities and future leaders at Berkshire could pursue them in India.
I don't think anybody sitting at this table has any idea of how to use it effectively, and therefore we don't use it, and we don't use it now at 5.4%, but we wouldn't use it if it was at 1%. Don't tell the Federal Reserve that, but prefer it. But if we had 10 billion, I wouldn't basically see many more opportunities than we found. Now, it's true that something like Japan we could have done if the company had a 30 or 40 billion, and we'd have had great returns on equity. But if I saw one of those now, I'd do it for Berkshire. It isn't like I'm got a hunger strike or something like that going on. It's just that things aren't attractive, and there's certain ways that can change, and we'll see whether they do. My best speculation is that U.S. debt will be acceptable, but for a very long time, because there's not much alternative. But it won't be the quantity. The national debt was nothing to speak of, for a long, long time. And then it won't be the quantity. It'll be whether, in any way, inflation would get let loose in a way that really threatened the whole world economic situation, and there really isn't any alternative to the dollar as a reserve currency. I don't worry about the quantity. I worry about the fiscal deficit, you know. But I'm not a worrier just generally. I mean, I think about it, but I don't sit and get up, work myself into a stew about it in the least. But I can't help thinking about it, and that's we've got a great attention. It's interesting. I think the media enters into this, and the focuses on the Fed, and they just love it because things are always happening, and economists are always saying what's going to happen with the Fed and everything else. But the fiscal deficit is what should be focused on, and Jay Powell is not only a great human being, but he's a very, very wise man. But he doesn't control fiscal policy, and every now and then he sends out a kind of a disguised plea for please pay attention to this, because that's where the trouble will be. India, I'm sure there are loads of opportunities in a place like India, and the question is, do we have any advantage in either insights into those businesses or contacts that will make possible some transaction that where the parties in India would particularly want us to participate. I would say that that's something that a more energetic management at Berkshire could pursue, because we do have the reputation now. Berkshire is known, not like it's known in the United States, but it's known around the world, and our Japanese experience has been fascinating in that respect. So there may be an unexplored or unattended to opportunity in that area.
Well, in some international news now, the Israeli military has ordered residents in eastern Rafah to evacuate immediately as they prepare for a ground offensive in the region. The evacuation call came after Israeli military bombarded the region, killing 22 persons, including 8 children. Israel also claimed that Hamas fired rockets at one of the main crossings used to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza, killing 4 of its soldiers. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected ceasefire negotiations. Netanyahu said that he cannot accept Hamas's conditions to withdraw from Gaza. Meanwhile, pro-Palestine student protests continued across campuses in the United States as graduation ceremonies began in universities across the country. Tensions flared as arrests continued amidst negotiations between administrations and students. Remember, students and other protesters have called upon universities to divest any financial investments tied to Israel and push for a ceasefire in Gaza. Around 2,000 protesters have been arrested across colleges in the country so far. Well, more news from the US. After years of delay, a Boeing spacecraft will ferry NASA astronauts to the International Space Station tomorrow. Indian origin astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore are scheduled to return to Earth in about a week. The launch is scheduled at around 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, Indian Standard Time. Well, back home, the Reserve Bank of India has proposed to tighten the rules governing project financing. Shares of REC, PFC and other state-owned lenders tumbled in trade after the RBI's draft rules proposed higher provisioning in the construction phase, even if the asset is classified as standard. CNBC-TV18 has learnt that lenders are likely to push back on this RBI proposal. Ritu Singh joining us now with more. Ritu, tell us more details as far as this draft rules are concerned, and what is the expected implication on the banking lending space?
First, First, to be clear, this is still a draft circular on project financing. Comments have been invited by the 15th of June, after which the final rules are going to be framed. It suggests strict monitoring of stress, sets the floor for minimum exposure that lenders may take, etc. But what seems to have really spooked the industry is the proposed higher provisioning, and steeply higher at that. Now, so far, RBI rules had said that if the date of commercial commencement or DCCA of projects was extended by up to 2 years, banks will have to still set aside only 0.4% provisioning, NBFCs 0.25%. But if the DCCO was extended beyond 2 years, both banks and NBFCs had to set aside 5%. Now, the new rules propose that banks and NBFCs set aside this 5% provisioning from the construction phase itself, but this provision can come down to half if the project becomes operational, and goes down further to 1% if certain other conditions are met. This 5% provision requirement also does not get implemented all at once, but in a phased manner until FY27 end. Now, if the DCCO is deferred now for more than 2 years for infra projects and more than 1 year for non-infra projects, the provision goes up even more by another 2.5%. But again, this can be reversed on the commencement of commercial operations. Importantly, RBI has proposed that these rules will be retrospective, so it will impact all existing as well as new projects. So if you're a bank funding under construction projects, for instance, the provision charge goes up from 40 basis points currently to 5% in a phased manner. Banks and industry watchers we spoke to expect these rules will further tighten the funding towards project finance. Some are even calling this a deal breaker. IIFL Securities estimates a 7 to 30 basis point hit on the bank CET1 ratio and a 200 to 300 basis point hit for infra financing NBFCs because of the rules. Macquarie believes the capex cycle recovery could even be postponed. Now, while the regulator's intent is to build a balance sheet buffer for project financing, which is inherently seen as more risky, there is bound to be some pushback from the industry. Some of the large banks we spoke to have already said they are going to take this up with the RBI.
Right, Ritu, thanks a lot for that. Now, in a bid to resuscitate the cash-strapped airline, Go First, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Committee of Creditors are holding a meeting today to deliberate the next course of action. This comes after the aviation regulator, the DGCA, deregistered all 54 of its aircraft. Sources indicate the lenders are weighing their options and may consider challenging the Delhi High Court order on deregistration. But their key priority is to protect their claim from the Pratt & Whitney case, where they are expecting a significant settlement amount. Sources have also implied that the liquidation route will be taken as a last resort. Meanwhile, Jet Airways founder Naresh Goyal has received interim bail for 2 months from the Bombay High Court, and this on medical grounds. He was arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case. In some earnings action now, shares of Kotak Mahindra Bank surged in trade today. This after the private lender reported a robust set of numbers in the fourth quarter, beating the street's estimates across all parameters. The bank's deposit growth on an annual basis was the strongest in the last 22 quarters. Speaking at the press conference, the bank's managing director and CEO, Ashok Vaswani, said that the RBI curbs on digital lending could impact its profit by 300 to 500 crores this fiscal. He also added that the impact on the bank will be minimal.
There is absolutely no impact to an existing customer across any channel, any product that we have. So our existing customer base, absolutely no impact. We've been seeking guidance from our regulators on building resilience of our technology systems and on enhancing the experience of our customers.
And shares of Paytm's parent company, 197 Communications, fell 5% in trade. This after the company president and chief operating officer Bhavesh Gupta tendered his resignation over the weekend. Gupta's exit marks the third top executive resignation from the company in the past few months after Paytm Payments Bank faced the RBI crackdown. More from the banking space. IDBI Bank posted a 44% rise in net profit for the fourth quarter due to a 58% drop in provisions on an annualized basis. The bank's loan growth remains strong, with net interest income coming in 12% and deposits growing at 9% year-on-year. However, slippages rose by 216% year-on-year, while both net and gross NPA rose in the quarter. Meanwhile, FMCG major Marico's fourth quarter performance met the street's expectations on most parameters from revenue to profit. The company's EBITDA surged 13% higher year-on-year in the quarter, while EBITDA margins expanded by 200 basis points. For the full fiscal, net profit grew by 16% YOY. However, revenues saw an 11.4% downtick on an annualized basis. And the FSSAI has dismissed reports that the food regulator approved a 10-fold increase in the level of pesticide residue in spices and herbs. The regulator stated that such reports are false and malicious and claimed that India has one of the most stringent standards of maximum residue limits in the world. The Health Ministry has also clarified that the maximum residue limits are different for various food products based on risk assessment. In some courtroom action now, the Supreme Court has refused to hear the application by micro and small enterprises challenging the 45-day payment rule under the Income Tax Act. The Apex Court held that the enterprises need to move the High Court to seek any relief in this matter. Remember, the Income Tax Act mandates that companies that don't pay MSME vendors within 45 days will not be allowed to claim the payment as a tax deduction. And with that, it's time now to head into a very short break. But coming up, 93 seats across 11 states and union territories will go to elections in Phase 3 of the Lok Sabha polls tomorrow. This includes 25 out of 26 seats in Gujarat. More details when we come back. Welcome back. Now, 93 seats across 11 states and union territories will be going to polls tomorrow in the third phase, Phase 3 of the Lok Sabha elections. Over 1,300 candidates are in the fray. The fate of more than half the Lok Sabha seats will be sealed after polling ends tomorrow. Voting will take place in 25 out of 26 Gujarat seats. The BJP has already won the Surat seat unopposed. The BJP had swept the state in 2019 by winning all seats. The party had registered a vote share of 63%. 10 seats in Uttar Pradesh go to elections as well. The BJP had won 8 of them in 2019. The Samajwadi Party had won the 2 seats. This included Mainpuri, which remains a Yadav family bastion. Voting will also take place across 14 seats in Karnataka. Polling season will come to an end in the state after Phase 3. The BJP had won all 14 seats in 2019. Meanwhile, 9 seats in Madhya Pradesh will also go to elections. Union Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia is contesting from Guna, the seat that he lost as a Congress candidate in 2019. 11 seats in Maharashtra go to polls as well, but all eyes will be on Baramati, which witnesses a high-stakes battle between the members of the Pawar family. Sharad Pawar's daughter and 3-time MP Supriya Sule is facing off against NCP and Maharashtra. Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar's wife, Sunetra Vinaya Deshpande, gets us more on the Baramati power play going on in Maharashtra.
All eyes will be set on Baramati. Yes, Mission Baramati is one of the most watched battles, not just in Maharashtra, but across the country, primarily because it's the first time that a Pawar will face another Pawar. Supriya Sule, who's a 2-time MP from Baramati constituency, will fight for her 3rd term, but this time on against her own sister-in-law and Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar's wife, Sunetra Pawar. This is the first time Sunetra Pawar steps into active politics, but she has the support of not just her husband and the NCP group of Ajit Pawar, but also from the BJP, from the Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde group and other allies, primarily called the Mahayuti in Maharashtra. Now, this is also the time when Sharad Pawar has put his entire might behind her daughter. It's not just Sharad Pawar, but Ajit Pawar's own younger brother and the entire Pawar family, which has campaigned against Ajit Pawar and Sunetra Pawar for Supriya Sule across the Baramati Lok Sabha constituency. Now, if you look at plain maths, there are 6 Vidhan Sabha constituencies that compose of Baramati Lok Sabha constituency. Of these 6, 4 are with the Mahayuti, while 2 are with the Mahavikas Aghadi. So in terms of plain maths, it's clear that it is Sunetra Pawar who has an upper edge, but at the same time, we are seeing that this entire election has become more of an emotive or an emotional issue, where an emotive appeal has been made by the entire Pawar family in order to stand by those who have stayed loyal and those who have stood behind the 80-plus-year-old veteran politician from Maharashtra.
Well, from one family bastion to another, the Samajwadi Party has fielded Dimple Yadav in Mainpuri. The Samajwadi Party has never lost this seat since the party first won in the year 1996. Shivani Bajaj now joins us from Mainpuri itself. Shivani, there are 10 seats in Uttar Pradesh. This is one of the VIP seats. That's what psephologists are calling it. Tell us more. Is the BJP confident at all of turning this SP tide, especially as far as Mainpuri is concerned?
Well, Ashmit, it's an interesting contest that is going to happen on all the 10 seats that are going to polls tomorrow here in Uttar Pradesh. These 10 seats include not just Mainpuri, but Bareilly, Agra, Etah. All of these are VIP seats. But yes, Mainpuri remains the focus, where Dimple Yadav is going to take BJP's Jaivir Singh and BSP's candidate, which is a Yadav candidate again, Shiv Prasad Yadav, head on. Now, let's understand, Uttar Pradesh's these 10 seats are very important because last time in 2019, as you said, BJP had won 8 of these seats and 2 were won by Samajwadi Party. 2 of them were, one was Sambal and one was Mainpuri. Mainpuri has always been the very strong hold of Samajwadi Party, and it's not from today, it's from 1996. Since then, when Mulayam Singh Yadav used to contest from this seat, and since then Samajwadi Party has never lost this seat. Now, last time in 2022 by polls is when Dimple Yadav filled in this the shoes of Mulayam Singh Yadav after his demise, and this is the first time after 2022 that Dimple Yadav will be elected or will be contesting from this seat in Mainpuri. Now, it's not going to be a cakewalk this time for Samajwadi Party. Let's understand why is that. Because Samajwadi Party has always eyed and won the Yadav votes here in Mainpuri. But this time, BSP, which is the Bahujan Samaj Party, has also fielded Shiv Prasad Yadav, which is who's a Yadav contestant from Mainpuri. So, Yadav has already been taking digs at Samajwadi Party and saying that the party has not prioritized the Yadav votes here in Mainpuri. In his election campaign, he has taken digs, as I said, and said that the only Yadavs that are getting tickets from Mainpuri or anywhere else in Uttar Pradesh are the family members of Mulayam Singh Yadav. So this is going to be difficult for Dimple Yadav this time around, clearly. But the third contestant is also very important here. Ashmit, understand that BJP's Jaivir Singh is an important candidate in this fight because he's the sitting minister. He's the Minister of Tourism and Culture in the cabinet of UPCM Yogi Adityanath. So he's also a very important candidate in this fight. And making the situation more complex is another factor here, which I'm going to tell you, is the fact that there is a huge percentage of vote when it comes to the Shakya community here in Mainpuri, and that is being targeted by the BJP. So it's not going to be a very easy fight this time for Samajwadi Party, even though they have been here for the longest time and they've never lost the Mainpuri seat. But it's going to be a very, very interesting contest tomorrow, Ashmit. So we are looking forward to it. And tomorrow is when Mainpuri and the other 9 important seats from Uttar Pradesh are going to polls in the third phase of the Lok Sabha elections tomorrow. Back to you.
Right, Shivani, thanks a lot for that comprehensive wrap. We'll, of course, touch base with you tomorrow when these big seats, especially in UP, go to polls elections tomorrow. Thanks so much for that. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18.